When it comes to launches, it is no secret that Payday 3 did not have the best launch. Available content aside, you could just not play this game. Payday 3, unlike its predecessors, adopted an online-only play, so you could only play on dedicated servers. This led to the early access period, which was an incentive to get more expensive editions of the game, mind you, to not even be playable. This caused me and many other players to simply drop the game. But with the approach of its year anniversary and news of the game getting some worthwhile updates, I figured now would be a good time to go back and see if this game will have comeback like No Man's Sky and Cyberpunk, or if we should just leave it for better co-op experiences. So join me as we figure out if Payday 3 is worth playing today and should you play it. Payday 3 was a game that had a lot to live up to. It was a sequel to what many consider to be one of the greatest co-op experiences of all time. A simple concept that was turned into a game with a lot of care, attention, and depth to many of its systems. Whether you were simply causing damage to a mall, robbing a bank, or breaking into Scarface's mansion, there was always some fun to be had. So, when Payday 3 was announced, to say I was ecstatic would be an understatement. I had been playing Payday 2 for the better part of a decade, and while I do love it, it was starting to show its cracks. The biggest of all being the difference between the PC and console versions. Console support had ceased, and PC was the only one getting new heists. This was due to engine limitations, I believe, and the big selling point of Payday 3 was the switch to Unreal Engine. This would allow for parity between all platforms. However, when Payday 3 launched, it was just not it. The game lacked a certain flavor about it. I mean, look at this from Payday 2. This map selection screen for Heist just screams Payday. This menu felt lived in, it has personality. Now, compare this to this Heist selection screen. It just feels like an alpha build or preset to eventually get the map screen. This presents one of my first issues that I immediately noticed. Now, you see, in Payday 2, you either had to wait for the heist you wanted with the difficulty you wanted to pop up. You could subvert this, though, by going to your contract broker and spending your offshore money to get the specific heist and difficulty you wanted. Now, if you don't know what offshore money from Payday 2 was, it was a percentage of your take from the heist that would get put into a different type of currency that would be used for things other than buying guns and masks. Most notable of this was the selection of specific heists, but in Payday 3, we can just pick them. Now, we do have C-Stacks, which is a currency that you can trade out your money for, but the only thing so far I'm able to buy is gloves with it, but I haven't played that much to really see the extent of what this other form of currency has to offer, and that's why we're here. I want to see what the end game of this game looks like. Now, let's get on to the actual game. Naturally, I went with the quick play option, which looking back was a mistake, because I got loaded into one of these stealth heists with some people who have clearly been playing a lot longer than I have, and I felt completely useless. The extent of my help was pointing out where the guard was and grabbing this key card, which later I forgot I had, which led to the team trying to corral me over to the safe. Not the best start, but this one was entirely my own fault. But one thing I did notice once we completed the heist was I did just get XP for simply playing the game. When Payday 3 launched, XP was tied to challenges, so once you had done enough on your playstyle, you just simply wouldn't level up anymore. I do not know when they changed this, but this gives me so much more incentive to play. Next, I opted to go by myself to get the groove back and decided to pick a random launch heist. I ended up in Road Rage, and this is when I realized I had made another mistake. This was by far and away my least favorite of the launch heists, and I completely forgot until I loaded onto this bridge. So I ditched the stealth route and decided to go full guns blazing to get an opposite feel from the last heist and really get a taste of the gameplay. Placed the hacking device on the truck and started the escort, which is pretty much the entire heist, mind you. As we make our way down the bridge, I start to really recall one of my biggest issues with this game coming from Payday 2, the lack of customization for solo play. You see, in Payday 2, you could customize the friendly bots to fill out player roles that would otherwise not be filled in the absence of a player. There is just no such system that I could find in Payday 3. It really felt like luck if the bots were actually going to provide something useful to me. other than being another target for the police to shoot at. I got the truck to the ramp, but at this point I was all out of materials. I only carried armor myself, and none of the bots were laying down supplies for me. I was quickly running out of ammo and health, and it wasn't long before I was taken out. Again, not the best start, but both of these have been partially my fault. I can forgive me being ignorant in the first heist and me trying to simply play a co-op game solo in the second, although I will say please bring back customizing the friendly AI. It was such a nice feature. So for the next heist, I decided to recruit a friend for this one who has also not played since launch to try out the newest free heist, Diamond District. Now, we knew nothing about this going in. I had not seen any marketing for this, and after walking around for a little and seeing all the stores we could case and rob, this was the first heist in the game I had played on this revisit that actually felt the, hell yeah, this is Payday. Our plan was to try stealth, but needless to say, that did not last, and as most of my Payday heists go, it became a bloodbath instantly. The stores locked down and we found ourselves trapped, but were able to trade our hostages for a little bit more time to keep looting. Eventually, time ran out and the police assault came in full swing. We devised a plan that he should continue rounding up the loot and the hostages while I make my way outside to assemble the cage to store all of our loot in. Now, it shouldn't be a surprise that when you play a co-op game with a friend that the experience will improve, but damn, did this heist quickly turn into that feeling like one from classic Payday, interweaving stores, high-rise windows with snipers, juggernauts rushing in on you, cloakers pinning you down. The amount of freedom I could glean that this heist offers just by seeing the possible routes that I could have taken made me want to replay this one, which is something I cannot say for the other heists. Things were getting hectic, so I decided to improvise and take a human shield, which is a feature not in Payday 2, to give me some breathing time. I don't know if maybe at launch the human shield didn't work or something, because why do I not remember using this? It made nearly all the enemies stop shooting me and I could still shoot them. It felt overpowered as hell. So after looting most of what we could see, the final assault started and we found ourselves trapped inside one of the stores on the edge of the map. Eventually, we used a human shield to break our way onto the street and secure our loot for a clean getaway. This heist experience was much better. It was fast, frenetic, and fun. Just walking past objects, I could already see multiple ways to complete it, and I will definitely go back to this heist after playing more of the others. Next, we opted to try out Turbid Station, which is a remake of Murky Water from Payday 2 and the first free legacy heist that was available in Payday 3. For this one, we really tried to do stealth, but with both of us not having the right skills invested and just simply not knowing the most about stealth in this game in general, the results were very lackluster to say the least. Now, we failed a few more times, and when I say this, I do not mean it as a knock against the game, but I am not a fan of stealth-only heists, but that's okay. Not every heist is for every playstyle. What truly marks the best ones for me is where it makes each playstyle viable. Let's come back to this one once we understand more of the game's systems and have skills more suited to the stealth experience. For now, let's move on to the actual DLC heists, because before this game came out, I did pre-order the Gold Edition, so I'm going to get my money's worth. We got 2 friends to fill out the rest of the squad and loaded into Boys in Blue, which came out last June. This saw us breaking into a police station to steal some gold bars and other things we might find in the evidence safe. My friend and I tried to sneak upstairs into the captain's office. I immediately killed him, which maybe I shouldn't have done, and my friend stood guard at the door while I performed the hack. We hit a snag when we needed security clearance from across the precinct. He tried to sneak over but was caught by the guard. I used this as my opportunity to sneak over while the guard was escorting him out. But since I had my weapons, any detection would mean an immediate alarm raise. All was going well until the guard returned. I was able to put him down quietly, but a camera I had not seen spotted his dead body and raised the alarm. We now had to go into the parking lot to locate explosives to breach the safe from outside the precinct. It took us way longer than it probably should have to locate the explosives, but we finally found them in the back of this van. We breached the wall and attached this winch to the safe to break it apart. After countless waves of police and attaching generators to keep the truck powered, we finally breached into the safe. While they bagged up the gold and any other valuables they could find, I made my way over to the garage to get the getaway vehicle ready. Now that everything was rounded up, we transported the gold across the street, allowing us to escape with most of the loot before even the final assault of police was allowed to start. This was definitely our cleanest heist yet, which happens when you have 4 actual players all working together. The only other paid DLC we had access to was Syntax Error. There is the Houston Breakout, but at this point we were all unsure about putting any more money into this game, so Syntax Error saw us breaking in to a server building to steal some software, and this was definitely my favorite heist of the game, purely on the aesthetics. We loaded in and made our way into the skyscraper. My friend and I opted to sneak through the vents upstairs, eventually finding a panel with 2 wires to cut. We flipped a coin and cut the wrong wire, sending us to going loud not even 5 minutes from starting the heist. This is starting to becoming a theme for this team. I will say the general shooting gameplay feels insanely good and is a very clear step up from Payday 2, but that should be a given since it came out 10 years later. We hacked our way into the server room and made our way to the AI control room. We shut down the AI, which involved disabling cooling systems and killing an obscene amount of cops. After this was done, we had to locate the servers and verify the correct 3. This was the most intense part of any heist that I had played yet. We had to go through so many servers and so many police officers that by the time we found the correct 3, we were on our last leg. Ammo was running out and we were out of health and armor drops. Once the correct 3 were found, we made our way up to the AI control room and blew our way into Central Park. Here we had to fend off even more police as we waited for the helicopter to arrive. Somehow, through multiple downs and even one of us being arrested, we finally escaped. The trend that I'm noticing is that the heists added on throughout this year have been a very significant step up. We tested this theory by doing the final heist of the base game, and it just felt very basic and small in scope compared to what was added. I'll put it bluntly, the game has vastly improved in the heist department since launch, and I can see myself replaying what was added compared to what was available at launch, and I most likely will. But I will still hold off until Operation Medic Bag is completed. Future changes include making the shield function more like Payday 2, and a UI revamp in October, which I hope will add more stuff like the map in Payday 2. The last thing I would need is for crime sprees to return. As far as I know, a system like this does not yet exist in Payday 3, and I found this to be the most fun and replayable thing in the endgame of Payday 2. So, back to the 2 questions. Is this worth playing today, and should you play it? While the game has definitely improved since launch and the heist being much better, I would still probably hold off for now until Operation Medic Bag is completed to have a much more full experience. I'll be doing the same, and I might make a video once these changes are implemented, but for now, this is what we have, and while it is fun, it still lacks the depth for me to keep playing it. So anyways, thanks for watching, and sub for more retrospectives and reviews.